Good evening, everypony, and welcome to Commentary as Magic Stream on today, July 21st. We are, as always,
Applejack.
Fstop.
Main 6.
And Vapor Trail, and sweet Celestia, I'm free! It's a miracle and Christmas in July all wrapped up in a nice, neat little package called an updated ban list.
It's been a while since we had one of these.
Last time was
Vapor
was
Trail.
that was it Vapor Trail? Yeah.
Yeah.
You were a good pony, Vapor Trail, and you're getting off on probation for now.
I mean,
I was
Twilight
framed
wasn't
by
content.
Twilight Sparkle.
Yeah. Twilight wasn't content framing Globetrotter. She had to frame more ponies.
She does that, doesn't she?
Twilight has gotten a lot of cards in trouble. I think Twilight's really the big bad evil guy here. I think this is what we're beginning to learn. Well, like we
Next
said at the
villain
beginning.
challenge, Twilight Sparkle.
Sure, sounds good to me. Chat, let us know what you think.
Villain Challenge Twilight Sparkle.
It's been an interesting week, at the very least. In addition to the ban list, we've seen all kinds of information regarding upcoming convention events at BronyCon, at Gen Con. TrotCon just wrapped up earlier today. Galacon is next weekend as well. We are kind of drowning in news right now, and it's a cool feeling. Additionally, we normally would be doing a stream towards this end of the month about our featured patron decks. But due to feedback that we've heard from both our patrons and our viewers, we're going to kind of change how we do that in the future. Just before we get into the ban list discussion here, we'll give the heads up. We'll be spreading patron decks across other streams that we do throughout the month. So rather than having just a single dedicated week for it, we'll probably highlight one or two at the end of streams as they become available. That way we can get some more of the content that people really appreciate seeing on the stream. Not that we don't like patron decks as well, because we do.
Skitter wants to know if Villain Challenge Twilight Sparkle has wings or not.
Are we doing pre-nerf or post-nerf? Because Twilight was better before she had wings.
Exactly.
Well, the patrons don't seem to agree because that poll has 2/3 of people saying that it doesn't matter. She's just a good pony.
Well, we'll see how they feel after the villain challenge, huh? For now, let's talk about the topic on everyone's mind.
Hold on. What you're saying here is that we're going to have Twilight on the start side and Princess Twilight on the boosted side, and she's going to have flying.
Yes. And you can win if you can flip her back over to her start side.
This sounds
Doesn't make her
terrible.
better. Exactly.
One wing for villain challenge, says Animoy. No Sephiroth.
No.
Where does Flash Sentry factor in?
He
Nowhere?
doesn't.
He's the resource that you have sitting in your home that you can't get rid of.
This
For
is
the
not.
villain or for the players?
Yes.
This is non-canonical.
Anyway, before we go too crazy on all of this here. Mr. Vapor Trail. Miss Vapor Trail. I don't know, what preferred pronoun Vapor Trail.
I'm actually a changeling.
Hiss.
Yes.
Okay. Talk to us. What have we seen with the recent ban list? Give us a brief summary, and then take us into your thoughts.
Well, Vapor Trail is a good pony. And it turns out that when you don't have a Twilight Sparkle faithful student sitting around, Vapor Trail doesn't actually cause all that many problems in core. So there's no reason to keep her banned in core.
Plus, you don't have 9 showdowns.
I also don't have 9 showdowns, that's correct.
0 showdowns. Terrible.
You also don't have juggling routine.
Nope.
Yeah.
Also terrible.
It's a well-known fact that Vapor Trail is actually really, really bad at magic, fashion, and hoof wrestling, but Twilight excels at all three.
That is correct.
So Vapor just subs out at the last minute.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
basically you just treat her like a really good agent who brings in a ringer at the last moment. And it's just like, oh, huh.
So, without the combo potential that we saw with Vapor Trail in Harmony about a year ago, she's free to explore her own possibilities in core. But do we think she's actually going to have a place anywhere? This is a card that, just looking at it numerically, is kind of difficult to justify.
Yeah.
But the ability is, both abilities really are what you have to look at with this card, because you're talking about a 2-cost, 1-power card, so it's not power efficient, and it has a very high rec. So if you're playing this card, there has to be a good reason for it. What do you think?
Well, if you're going particularly wide, that Chaos ability is potentially worth quite a bit, because that is not restricted in any way. That is all of your characters everywhere. And if you've got, I don't know,
20 critters.
Yeah. I'm sitting here glaring at Skitter's name in the chat, 20 critters. That's a bad power boost.
Okay. So, Chaos, in a deck that likes to go wide, of which we know yellow can definitely do that, there's some options there.
And she's yellow. How about that?
So we've got some synergies there. But what about her second ability, the thing that ended up causing so much trouble to begin with?
Well, this... Night Glider.
Thorax.
Ooh, Thorax is real fun. Though, why is your Thorax at home?
Because your opponent moved him.
Yeah, this does make things a little bit more interesting because in the context of Thorax, now 2 things have to not be a problem. Because, sure, go ahead, shove Thorax home. Whatever. Vapor Trail just brings him right back in.
Yeah, the interesting use with Vapor Trail and Thorax, especially in like Thorax farming, is if you can set up 2 troublemakers with Thorax at one problem and Vapor Trail at the other, you can simply challenge with Thorax, and if your opponent moves him home, or if you lose the face-off, no big deal. You've got a second challenge, and Thorax is right back in it. He's effectively being in 2 places at once. Additionally, Vapor Trail is getting him a little bit of a boost as well, and that 4 yellow requirement in a Thorax deck is basically
probably
meaningless.
Not going to be an issue?
I'm going to go with probably not.
I mean, if somehow you have no friends, but yeah, basically.
Well, we'll get to those situations in just a moment here. Because they are about to be a lot less common. But you said a couple other friends as well. Ara, I think you were saying Night Glider. Bugle, I think you were saying Novo.
Yeah, Novo.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just go ahead and, get Novo involved in this face-off that currently is going to have no more than about 3 power at it.
Yeah.
Okay, get Novo exhausted too.
Terrible.
You could have Vapor Trail exhausted.
Yeah, go ahead and just flip a Forest Owl and win that face-off. Seems good.
Yeah, you can accomplish the same kind of thing with Novo and Vapor farming as well, in that, okay, Novo's at one problem, Vapor's at the other. I'll challenge with Novo first. If Novo doesn't get dismissed, then, okay, I'm probably going to win the other one.
Yeah, and keeping your Night Gliders involved and relevant, even though they might cost a little bit too much to move. Although, to be fair, Vapor Trail is not incredibly power efficient on her own.
No, she's not. but maybe that, there's potential here. There are definite uses. The question is just, will any of them justify playing a card that numerically is so non-impactful? And that's just going to take time.
I think if she sees a place, it's going to be Thorax Farm, because I think she's actually just fine there. If you flip her, you're like, oh, okay, that's plus 40 power, okay. And if she's in play, like you said, it helps you with purple control.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
That's a lot with that.
It's a lot of power with her for sure.
Especially since we have so many non-villainous epics in core right now. So she's very not likely to be scared.
That's true. And since Thorax Farm does have a tendency to run enforced equality, that's actually a 2 for 2.
She's a power efficient.
Yeah, there you go.
She's just as power efficient as every pony else.
That makes her more than just power efficient. That means you actually want Thorax at home so he can still contribute his insanely large power to...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's also good for Night Gliders and basically everything else with competitive. So there might even be a place for this in a yellow-blue deck, perhaps?
Sure. We see several players running Thorax Blue right now. And Enforced Equality is a great troublemaker that you can add into wide aggro decks that doesn't really punish you that much. It's just a little bit of extra point gain.
Yep.
All right. Anything else we want to say about Vapor Trail or chat? Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts on these bannings as well. We haven't had so many cards being adjusted on the ban list since it was first designed, so what do you think?
Well, while we wait for them, I just want to say that once again, Vapor Trail is the wind beneath our wings.
So do we have to try to get her banned a second time?
I think we have to get Rainbow Shine banned a second time first.
Hey. Why are you being mean? He's being mean.
Yeah. As long as we are careful to avoid situations like what happened with her in Harmony, I think we'll be okay. Twilight was definitely part of that. The showdowns were really the major part of that.
The winner?
Yes.
Well, I suppose that's fair. The true culprit here is, in fact, the showdowns, still at large. 9 sets later.
Yep.
Well, 8 sets, because those... Right.
All right. Let's...
I would say 7 sets, because they were set 2.
Technically correct.
Depends on whether or not you're counting fence posts. Anyway. Let's talk about our next one here.
Go for it.
You maniacs. You did it.
You blew her up?
Actually did it. You blew her up.
Manes are no longer sacred.
Nothing is sacred.
First main ban.
Actually, we still haven't had an event banned, have we?
Nope.
We have not had an event banned.
Showdowns win. Interplay, please.
Plus.
Nah.
Let's just ban Portal.
No.
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 Please no. I like that card too much.
Everyone likes that card too much right now. That card has done nothing but get better over time. Speaking of cards that have gotten better over time.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of cards that everyone likes too much. Or maybe not. Yeah. It's the Applejack Mane. She is no longer legal in core.
Just core?
Just core.
Just core.
So this is an interesting choice or an interesting approach to handling a problematic issue with her that several players and other community figureheads have kind of raised an eyebrow at. Like Applejack would raise an eyebrow as the Princess of Eyebrows.
She is kind of good at doing that.
I wish we had the yodeling video right now, but oh well. The question is, if AJ has been winning in core and also winning in harmony, which she has, why was she only banned in one of these formats? And I think to answer that question, we'll have to wait until we talk about the last card on this ban list here, because that has a lot to do with it. But,
So, you've mentioned this a couple of times, but I think to quickly paraphrase your argument, Harmony is a much higher power format than Core is. There are a lot more interesting things in Core. Combos. Good ones, viable ones, that still exist and work in Harmony. And
A few.
And Combo hasn't really seemed to find a good footing in Core yet. And that's not necessarily a good nor bad thing, it's just a statement of fact. There are not combos that seem to be particularly effective. And so that's one thing that AJ has to deal with in Core, or Harmony, is there is the ever-present threat of combo, not just alongside all of the other good things that might answer her in Core. Or I keep getting Core and Harmony mixed up. Good for me.
Don't get those mixed up when you're taking a deck list there. I think that'll cause problems.
Just don't confuse it with Nightmare.
No, that's easy. But Harmony does have a lot of fairly good answers to AJ. Ones that Core doesn't have. Twilight Sparkle or Ursa Vanquisher, for example.
Yes, that's very true. Ursa Vanquisher has been one of the best methods of dealing with AJ throughout her time in Harmony.
It's been one of the best methods of dealing with farming in general for Harmony.
Mm-hmm. There's another card as well that holds up very well in AJ Orange matchups, which is Lasso Champion.
Yeah.
Most Orange decks actually don't have a counter to her.
Exhaust
Yep.
her. Oh wait.
As long as she's in play, your Applejack has 0 power. And what is Orange going to do to that? Like, turn it off?
Try to flip extra cards? I mean, turning it off doesn't do anything. The
Nope.
modifier exists independent of her.
Unless they had a Desert Road, it's too bad.
Yep. Anemoy also spots another reason for AJ being okay in Harmony, and that is Break It Up, which, again, we'll talk about kind of in context of Fstop. We'll get to him in a moment. But there is a style of control deck in Harmony called Chaos Control that has historically had a very good matchup against AJ, and with some of the other ban list changes, we might see a deck like that come back and be popular again. So,
yeah, Cheerly, and also related to Chaos, the Tempting Offer.
That's a kind of obscure one. What does that do, Bugle?
When you flip a Chaos card, move a character, an opposing character.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
Seems good.
There's also the always funny Scootaloo. While this card is flipped, players can't score points.
If you really want to be silly, you could use Celestia, the one that turns the Trollmaker face down when you flip her.
You can, although that has the same issue that Scootaloo does, which is it doesn't stop AJ from still getting her Diligent.
No, it doesn't.
Chaos Capital of the World doesn't really disrupt AJ, unfortunately, joking Luna, because power counters remain on a main character even if that main character gets flipped over again. And since that's the thing that really makes AJ strong, and the fact that she flips at the start of any face-off, she has to spend basically no effort to reflip again, and she keeps all of her power.
Yeah, so it's like, sure, if she has no counters or like 2 counters, it can hurt, but she's already at like 7 counters. Ooh, I'm 8 powers now. Or, sorry, she can't. Well, she can, sure. I'm 8 power now. What am I going to do? Oh. Flip.
I mean, if you manage to flip Chaos Capital every single time, that's probably fine, because then AJ doesn't get diligent counters even if she wins.
I mean, that is
Yeah.
actually pretty funny.
But
Uh,
it's usually not relevant.
yeah, if you flip it during the face-off, yeah.
One question that we've heard a lot of is, well, if the issue with AJ is there just aren't meaningful ways to interact with her power counters, which is really the crux of the issue, why doesn't Interplay just make more? Why don't they just make more cards that can do that? The thing to keep in mind with the AJ ban is this is not just designed to shut down farming. Farming exists in other forms as well. AJ's simply been so good at it that none of the other options have really been competitive right now.
Yeah, there was a brief time where One Punch Mare worked.
Sure. And in
But-
Harmony, we saw that Axe Steadies could function fine with Twilight. Thorax still does okay.
But right now, they're just apples and oranges.
Actually, this is really interesting. I just now noticed this. The art that we have for her has Celestia's cutie mark in the text box.
Oh, it does.
That's weird. I don't think that's that way on the printed card. Very weird.
I have to find out. AJ, though, has been powerful even outside of farm, right? That's the thing. When AJ gets ahead in core, this is what I'm specifically referring to, it's very difficult to come back from that. AJ wins 2 or 3 face-offs, and now you're sitting there facing down a 7 to 9 power main character that you have very limited ways to interact with already, and she can also use that power flexibly when the situation presents itself. Not that she usually does.
And you also basically have to win that face-off, because if you lose that face-off, she's only going to get bigger.
Right. So even AJ aggro lists, if they had a very strong start, which we saw in decks like Spook and Maku last year at Gen Con, can get easily out of control. So why not just print more options to interact with power counters on mains? Why couldn't we just do that? Leave AJ in there, because people obviously like playing her. Well, there's a reason for it. When you think about how many cards you'd need to print in a new set to allow multiple colors options for dealing with her, take up a decent portion of the set. Probably take up 6, 7, maybe even 10 cards if you wanted multiple colors to have options. But even if it was just 1 card per color, that's still 6 cards that are only interacting with power counters. And with AJ being really the only meaningful main that has power counters, and power counters on friends just being easier to interact with through the numerous other methods of removal we have right now, like frightening, or dismissal, or banishment, or bouncing, or flickering, or top deck setting, or. Cards that would interact with power counters in new sets would basically be there to answer exactly one problem.
1 card.
And that's not really interesting.
But there's other cards that have power counters.
Sure. But most of those other cards are either friends or troublemakers, and there are far better ways of interacting with those cards than just removing the counters.
Yeah.
That's what it really comes down to. I think we can learn a lesson from Applejack in terms of mains are already difficult to interact with. Don't add another layer on top of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the other option is to make it easier just to shut down mains in general, but that would be hurting all the other mains a lot. Like we already saw the when they originally what was the one that could
Utterly Drained.
Well, and there's Utterly Drained, but there's also the one in
No,
Sequestria.
Limestone.
Or Dio, yeah, Dio.
Yeah, Limestone.
Limestone. When that originally affected mains, that was a big deal.
I mean, it does affect mains.
On their start side.
Yeah.
But like messing with mains is dangerous.
Yeah, mains are no longer just there as a source of color entry. Not that they always were before. Some of them were there because they had Swift on them, which is something we've also learned about.
Or Caretaker.
I would be okay seeing Caretaker on a yellow main again. In fact, if you were to swap out the Calming 2 from the EO Fluttershy and put some Caretaker on there, and then also change the rest of the card as well, I'd be fine with it. Just change the entire card. It'll be fine.
Just make it Beastmaster.
Sure. Maybe not Beastmaster. Maybe we can go Friend Animals.
I mean, sure.
Oh, okay.
A Thorax needs another +1 power. Whoop-de-doo.
Okay. Yeah, AJ's in kind of an unfortunate position right now in core, in that you, if you were playing competitively, basically had one of two decisions. You could either play AJ, who is a very, very strong deck right now, primarily because she's not affected by a lot of the removal that's out there, or you could play a deck that would need to include multiple answers to deal with her. And if you didn't do one of those two things, you were likely going to have a bad time.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't exactly fit Magic's definition of a tier 0 deck, where you either play that deck or the answer to that deck.
But
because
it's not a good thing.
No, it's pretty close to that.
It makes the meta very undiverse, because there is this thing that you have to answer, and if you don't answer it, you will not do well.
So what happens if you don't like playing those colors that have answers? What if you don't like playing purple?
Why do you want to play blue-yellow aggro?
You're going to have a bad time.
So because of that, and because of the greater power level and greater diversity of options in Harmony, we're okay letting AJ stick around for now. And we'll see what happens in the future. All right, I think that's enough on this piece of fruit. Let's talk about pairs.
Well, yeah. Perfect pairs?
We need to talk about sixlets. Specifically the main 6 party planners.
All 6 of them.
All 6 of them.
Or Spike.
I suspect that this card does not need much of an introduction to people who have been playing in core for any significant time. I really don't.
It's terrible.
As Joking Luna says, so happy to see this card die in a fire.
But it's hugs.
Twilight is the only one here that expresses any remorse.
But it's a hug. Nothing can go wrong with a hug.
I think
I just want to hug every pony.
To death.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, Cheese. Sorry, go ahead, Art.
It's not my fault they can't hold their cider.
What? What do you mean
The
can't
party.
hold this? No, that's a completely separate problem.
Cheese, talk to us about main 6 and why we are now finally having this discussion.
I mean, why didn't we have it when the card came out?
Yeah.
Or, well, because it wasn't banned then. But
Right, I mean, why wasn't it banned?
why did it take so long?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, it wasn't originally clear how impactful this card would be. But turns out, combined with Party Hard? Yes, that's the card. It's just ridiculous. And the problem is that it's a one-sided board wipe that also removes all the answers your opponent has. It just like sets them to 0, sets you to 11, and then says, "Hey, let's continue playing."
And your opponent
not-
says, no, let's not continue playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have removed you from the game. Would you like to play for 6 more turns?
Yeah.
Nah.
This is more unfun than Guidance Counselor ever was.
It's pretty far up there. Yeah.
And like, I've won games that I've had main 6 played against me, but generally that's when they get it late and it's like a last ditch effort to try and win.
And your
Yeah.
momentum alone already carries you over the line. Had it
Yeah.
landed 4 turns earlier, it would have been a very different story.
Yeah. If this ever comes out, like if you're a little like if you're near each other, evenly matched, that's a good term. Then yeah, it's just game over.
Yeah, the momentum,
Almost guaranteed.
the momentum shift is unreal. And even if it's not played in conjunction with Party Hard, which it almost always was, but even if you're just using Sorin or Minuet or what's the other one? Defenders of Equestria?
And Sneaky Snake?
Sneaky
is
Snake.
that-
That's
Sneaky
it.
Snake.
Sneaky
Yeah.
Snake. That's it. You're still
Or
wiping
you're playing in Beyond Block and just using what's her name? Trueshine.
Shushan. Yes, because you have 3 colors and that's it.
And main 6 is not banned in Beyond Block.
No, she's
Correct.
not. So, for all you players who are out there playing with only Sequestria and running 3-color decks because you have to, go wild.
This is still an option, if you really want. So there's your secret, like, Beyond Block deck. It's a 3-color deck that runs Shoeshine to eat all your opponent's stuff.
I mean, we made it last week.
Yep.
Oops.
It's one of the like 2 decks you can build.
Yep.
There's some more, but
So, there's a lot of debate over whether or not board wipes are appropriate for MLP. And
Party of 1?
Party of 1, Applejack,
add a deck.
To some extent cornered.
yeah, to some extent. Like, there's plenty of options that can end up resetting a board, so to speak.
But they are, generally speaking, symmetrical.
Right.
With the tiny exception of Party of 1, that means
It's
you
one
gener-
friend off.
you
it's
generally
whatever.
keep 1 friend. Whereas this, in concert with many of the other cards we've discussed, is an asymmetrical board wipe where you get through this completely fine. And as Joking Luna says, the specific combination of this and Party Hard is devastating because your hand is also gone.
Yeah.
And that was always the worst part. Like I remember there was lots of times where I'm like, oh, I'm fine if you get rid of all my friends. Like it's not great, but it's fine. And then
Sure.
it's like, oh wait, Party Hard. I also discard. Yeah, I'm done.
The issue was you could play around main 6 in the same way that you could play around like Party of 1 or just a bunch of friend removal by just holding back and just keeping extra friends so that if your board does get wiped, whatever, you can rebuild. But when that
Yeah.
option is also taken away from you, and in doing so your opponent accelerates their own options for future gameplay, just completely unreasonable. We saw...
I believe Cursed Chord said, described it as this 2-card combination just wins you the game.
It does.
That,
Like she said, barring circumstances where you're already uncatchably far ahead.
Or
that
top deck perfectly.
Yeah.
seems like a problem.
So, no shed tears over this one.
A little bit, but not much.
However, speaking of shed tears, when it hits you right in the toolbox control.
No,
Oh.
Shed all the tiers.
You are implying that there are any tiers whatsoever here. No, good riddance. Fstop was a bad pony.
I mean, he knew what he did wrong, and he kept doing it.
For
Again,
9 sets.
And again. And again.
And again.
Every turn, you might say?
Every turn.
For the rest of the game. For 9 sets.
Yeah, Bugle, I think you made a comment earlier that Fstop was one of the... It was either you or it was Cursed on his stream earlier today saying that Fstop is one of those cards that just gets better as more cards come out, because it means there's more things he can do. So
yeah, I've said that several times. I think I said that when I introduced Zippo.
Yeah, that as new tools become available, and those continue to replace the other cards that you'd want to run, having more of them is just always a good thing. So there's never a set where Fstop becomes worse.
Right. Even if there are ways of dealing with him, there are so many ways now to just get back your Fstops that you're still fine.
Yep.
Unless they're banishing all of your Fstops with, say, like a Destiny Drain.
Sure. So this is a very old card. This is a premier card. And it took a little while for him to kind of catch on, for people to recognize what he was capable of. So for players who may have started more recently, or haven't really seen this card in action and are confused as to why you'd ban a card like this, tell us, Bugle.
So, how would you like to play Nap Cakes every single turn? Or Food Fight? Or Portal?
I'm thinking more Belly Flop.
Well, Belly Flop requires something else.
It generally does.
Like tokens
like
created by bodyguards? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's just say, whatever the best event in your deck is, you can play that every single turn forever and ever and ever.
I'm the friend you need.
And, yeah, absolutely. I'm the friend you need. That puts your opponent on a very short clock.
Say, who remembers Penny Lane?
I remember Penny Lane.
Yeah, you know what was bad about Penny Lane?
Sad.
The fact that you had a bunch of her.
You had 9 copies of her.
Yeah.
You know what's bad about Fstop?
You have infinite
Having
copies of
literally infinite copies of Belly Flop or Food Fight or
whatever. Yeah.
Napcakes Portal.
You only have one of them in your deck. But with Gyro, you find that card, and then with Fstop, you play it again.
And
as
again.
many times as you need.
And again.
Yep.
And again.
Skitter mentions showdowns here, although with the exception of rock, paper, scissors, shoot, most decks that were running showdowns were trying to win in a single turn, and so they'd prefer to use something like Juggling Routine, just to reset their whole deck.
Yeah, there was Stopping Corn way back in Absolute Discord, but that was the exception to the rule.
Sure, Fashion Week is a win condition.
Yeah.
Was Stopping Corn really only with AD?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's an old
because that's
deck.
where Popping Corn was, yeah.
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 That's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Bugle. Go ahead.
But anyway, Fstop was the linchpin of most toolbox control decks, because why pack 3 copies of one answer when you could pack 1 copy of every answer and then just play it whenever you need it? Like silver bullets, such as not Destiny Drain, since that banished itself. Magical Misfire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you need to play that twice in a game. You can afford to just run 1. Fstop just gets it back and you're fine. Really need to party of 1 twice? Fstop's got you covered. He's just difficult to deal with.
He sold his soul to Tirek.
He did. For perfect photography.
So, it's easy to understand from that explanation now why Fstop would end up banned. And this, I guess, he just hit critical mass, where he had seen play for long enough and had done well for long enough, and Harmony was getting stale enough that people said, okay.
I would like to do something different.
Yeah.
Other than just run tricolor toolbox control.
Right.
Yeah, white, purple, X.
So now the question becomes, what does Harmony look like? Because shy of the AJ ban in core right now, I don't think we've ever seen a ban that will have as much broad meta impact as this Fstop ban.
Well, I think we already touched upon it, but Chaos Control is almost certainly coming back.
Mm-hmm.
The major reason I found Chaos Control to fade from view was Toolbox Control just laughed at it.
Sure. Chaos Control relied on a few very specific friends, and if there were, in theory, infinite pieces of removal to deal with those friends, what do you do when you lose them?
Plus, typical control deck, Toolbox Control deck doesn't want to challenge anything. Like, how are you going to Chaos if there's no face-offs?
Stick.
Sure.
Yeah. Now we have stick. So, but before that, it was just like, well, what do I do?
Right. I mean, Chaos Control always had the backup game plan of, well, I'll just farm my own epic troublemakers that are here. But if you're playing against a Toolbox Control, then Control says no. Exactly. Especially with events like Cutie Pox Scare, which can just completely shut down your setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an irritating one, too.
We might see the return of non-orange farming.
In Harmony, you think?
In Harmony, yeah. I think we might see like One Punch Mare kind of thing come back. Because while Yoink and Food Fight and all that stuff still exist, there's not infinite copies anymore. You can play around it better. We might see more aggro decks. What's the last time we saw an aggro deck do well in Harmony? Was it Spookum Makukum?
Spookum or Hot Wings. One of the two, yeah.
And I mean, to those things' credit, they actually did fairly well, but...
Fstop said hi.
Fstop did say hi. Fstop brought pumpkins. Enough pumpkins for every pony.
Smile for the camera, Splat.
This also means that Control is forced into a more interesting position and has more decisions it has to make. Previously, like you were saying with Toolbox Control, you can just run a single copy of all of these Silver Bullet events and have a control deck that's prepared for literally anything that's out there. And probably some things it'll never face, but you've got the answer to it anyway. Now, Control doesn't necessarily have that choice. You can still run Toolbox cards, but you can't get them back over and over again. So if you're playing against a deck where you need to answer the same board situation more than once, you're going to have to run multiple copies, and that's going to decrease your flexibility at the cost of increasing your consistency. Ah, we had that stream.
Well, there is an alternative to that. While we don't have Fstop, we do still have stuff like the Spectacle or Heart's Strongest Forces, or we do have less powerful Fstops as well.
Moondancer,
Spike. Yeah. Some people are still going to try and force. I know you hate it, but people are going to still try and force Glimmer plus Spectacle.
And
we have Cadence.
We have Cadence plus
and
Trixie's Equestrian Apology Tour, yeah.
AJ is still legal in Harmony, remember?
Yeah, but she wasn't doing particularly great in core with that combo, though, so I think it's a bit of a hard sell to up the power level of the format and then say, well, it'll work here.
Well, we might still see stuff like Moondancer or Spike, or even just Cleaning Up. Cleaning Up is a fantastic card that I know you've still been playing with, even in core.
Absolutely. Cleaning Up is still a good card, but the key is to know that you are still limited on resources. The idea of unlimited answers to any game state is no longer there. The number may be higher in terms of how many you can play or how many times you can pull off this particular trick, but it is still finite. So you have to be
Well-
very judicious with how you end up doing this.
You could use Juggling Routine and/or Changeling Infiltrator, but that doesn't give you the answer. It just gives you the opportunity to have the answer again, which is very different.
Right. But overall, we'll probably have to see control decks that react a little more specifically towards their particular meta.
Yeah.
If you're going to play a lot of farming, you'll probably want to include more than just a handful of farming tools and rely on Gyro to find them.
Yeah, you're going to have to guess, or not necessarily guess, but predict.
If you're playing against a bunch of wide aggro decks, well, time to pack some Party of Ones.
It means
Still
that
a good card.
you can't take this one copy of the deck and just have it work. You have to specialize for the meta that you expect to run into.
And honestly, that's healthier anyway, when we sit there and think about it. To have a deck that can just outperform every other deck if it's properly constructed, or at least have good answers to every other deck if properly constructed, really does create a stale meta. When the top choices for Harmony were run a deck that has the least number of ways to interact with it, aka farming, or run toolbox control, such that you can stop everything, or run combo if it's efficient enough, and just have also very few ways to interact.
And still maybe lose to toolbox control.
Right. It's not particularly exciting.
Yeah.
Now, with Fstop gone, the entire format is broken wide open again, and that is yet another reason why AJ is not banned in Harmony. Because with Fstop gone, who knows what it's going to look like?
Well, for a little bit, I think it's going to be full of AJ.
Oh, I'm sure it will. There are a number of players who eat, sleep, and breathe AJ Farm, and they will be able to continue doing so in Harmony. We'll see how long it takes before they start running up against some of these other walls we think are going to appear.
Yeah, I am quite a fan of Cheerily, and it will be nice to be able to break her out again. Break it up again, I should say.
I see
Yep.
what you did there.
Did you know?
Yes. Yes, I
Well,
did.
Cheese, Aura, any other thoughts on Fstop or the bans overall?
I already said my piece
Gonna
about
be-
Fstop.
Interesting to see where things go, but I think we're going to be in a better place.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
I'm just
do think. No, you say your thing first.
I'm just glad I can play Friends again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think, however, we do have one more card to talk about, a card that wasn't banned or unbanned.
Stick?
Yeah.
Okay. So
A lot of people have questions about staff.
Sure. Arguably, just as much as AJ, staff was incredible. In fact, it would have to be more prevalent than AJ because every AJ deck ran 3 sticks, and it was in decks that weren't AJ. So,
Yeah.
mathematically speaking, it had to be more popular.
If you take the Coco data, and I'm not saying that this is a particularly great source for this, Staff of Sakanis was way up there on the popularity. And it was also way up there on the decks that tended to do well.
But not all of the top decks had staff.
Right. There were some decks where staff just wasn't appropriate. So the question is, if Stick is still so strong that it sees play in so many different decks, why is that not being banned if the goal is to increase diversity in the meta? Or to shut down cards that are way above power level?
Right.
Because Stick is, by far, one of the most powerful resources we've ever seen. Up there with, like, Magical Mailbox. But
And
for different
Study
reasons. And yeah.
To Joking Luna's comment, yes, the Coco data is not necessarily a good representation of a tournament meta, but it does give you some ideas. I believe I've talked about this in the past. It's not a perfect representation, but there are some things that you can draw from it.
Sure. In the same way that you also cannot, or inversely, you cannot choose not to ban a card because that card is ultra rare and you think it'll be harder for some players to obtain. If a card is toxic, it's toxic. It doesn't matter how hard it is to get.
Yes, rarity is never an excuse for excessive power level.
Except for RTO.
I see what you did there.
Thank you for picking up on that. I was hoping someone would.
So, the simplest answer to this question in my mind is, when you look at staff, what is it actually accomplishing? Sure, in AJ, it was really strong. It lets you flip your main, it lets you have some soft control, and it accelerates your main's growth to the point that she just gets out of control that much faster. But at the end of the day, staff is a card that really is kind of an aggro flip tool.
You can use it for a number of things. Baluna doesn't mind running sticks at all. What's another 3 power on the main that's probably going to be at problems anyway? That seems pretty good.
Sure. You're running blue elves and you want even more efficiency to start your power moving chain? Chuck it on Muffin Mare.
You need 4 purple for something? Whatever. Skystar, despite being pink and having 1,000,000 seashell tokens, there are so many things we can do with shells, is probably only going to be worth 3 purple on her own with a motivational speech. So, pull out a stick. Now all of your purple stuff works.
Mm-hmm. And for those mains where you desperately need to find a way to be able to flip, Professor Twilight, Thorax,
Scootaloo,
Fluttershy, Sweetie Belle.
Does your
Sweetie
main
Belle especially?
Does your main say confront to flip?
Well, you should probably be running 3 sticks in your deck.
I've got some good news for you. I like sticks.
Yep. And apart from just the power boosting, Stick's other ability is nice, soft removal that you can use again and again, but it does kind of come at a cost. It is not simply pay 1 AT to frighten a friend. That would be much better than it is right now. The fact is, it starts a face-off. And that means that there are things that your opponent can do in response that can actually throw you off.
Like get rid of your stick.
Yeah, like Chaos Control probably does not care about stick at all.
I mean, it cares about its own sticks.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
But yeah, it doesn't care about opposing sticks. Likewise, if you're playing up against Purple White X, and you've got important friends in play, trying to challenge one of the opponent's friends with the stick is probably asking for one of your key pieces to be napcaked. Joking Luna also brings up that stick is not considered to be toxic because there are so many ways to get rid of it. I don't know if that resonates with all the players who were complaining about stick not being banned, but I agree with you.
Something 3 resource removal.
Yeah, there are answers to resources, and they apply to many things.
I mean, there were answers to Fstop as well. Like,
Belly
but
flops.
yeah.
Yeah, but most of those answers worked better in decks with Fstop too.
Yeah.
Whereas,
but I kind of see where people are saying, removal isn't necessary. Well, let's put it this way: if all there was removal and there was literally no other counterplay, then yes, it would be a problem. But as we've discussed, there is other counterplay in addition to removing it.
Sure. At the same time, stick also fills an important role in giving colors that don't have a lot of ways to kind of interact or slow down the opponent with at least something they can do. The biggest issue you always saw running yellow aggro is, okay, your opponent has a problematic friend in play.
there's a spoons in play. What do I do about this?
Well, the answer up until now was you deal with it.
You hope that you're running a color that has a way to deal with spoons.
Right. Now, you've got options to temporarily play around or deal with opposing friends that might present problematic continuous abilities, or, abilities that they can activate at immediate speed. And maybe you can leverage AT acceleration or AT advantage to drain your opponent for 2 AT for every 1 you're spending.
Yes.
And granted, it's not that efficient in the grand scheme of things. It's not hard removal. It doesn't take something out of the game in a way that means it probably won't come back.
It is also the one type of removal that has the most cards that say, you can't do that to me. Most notably, Rescue Party.
Yeah, there's a good chunk of orange that basically just looks at Stick and goes, huh,
What's
'Kay.
Frighten?
Whatever.
Anemoy asks the question, with all these changes now, is blue now the strongest color in core? And
I'm almost positive the answer to that is no.
And I agree
think
with you
it's
as well.
Pink.
Pink.
Yeah, it's almost certainly pink. But blue does get much better here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It does bring blue up quite a bit, because blue likes playing a lot of its friends and keeping its friends in play and not having its friends removed by main 6 or being stonewalled by troublemakers.
Or
AJ. Just
dealing with it.
AJ being bigger than you can win a face-off.
Right, and having no way to interact with her meaningfully. So that does bring blue up, but pink is still an incredibly strong color that has one of the best mains in core right now, tons of removal, lots of ways that it can play either control or aggro, and synergizes very well with so many other colors.
I think every other color.
Yeah, I'm playing pink-orange, Burb is pink-purple, plenty of players have explored pink-white, pink-yellow, Bugle, you've got more than one small thing, although that's probably adjusted slightly.
It lost its heavy hitter, yeah.
Yeah, and Skystar Blue is still nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah. And then there's, of course,
Baluna would like a word.
tricolor combinations that work well with pink as well.
Yep.
Turns out that when Singing Barrel is your best tricolor entry and pink happens to have the best way to find a Singing Barrel, it likes playing tricolor.
So, to answer that question, no, blue is far from the strongest color in core, but all these changes certainly didn't hurt it any.
Yeah, stealth buff.
Stealth.
Sneaky.
Well, we've been on this for a while. Do we have any last-minute thoughts we want to share? Or, chat, do you have any last-minute comments you want to make before we wrap things up?
When are we banning Rainbow Shine?
No.
As soon as she gets printed, obviously.
When are we unbanning Rainbow Shine?
When she acknowledges she did one thing wrong.
Rainbow Shine did nothing wrong.
And that's why she's still behind bars.
First step to recovery is
Animor says
admitting you
BronyCon.
have a problem.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that. Okay, so conventions. We have an event schedule for BronyCon, and Sim's going to be there.
Yeah.
Most of Sim.
Most of Sim.
I'll be stuck out here on the West Coast.
That's okay. We needed someone to
You
commentate.
get to be me, since I was away for Everfree. It's your turn.
Yep, that's fair. I'll take the reins on this one.
That means you get to commentate, right?
Woo!
So what's this year's gimmick? Are we doing Pen vs. Matt again? We can't do Pen vs. Matt.
You can always do Pen vs. Matt. I'll always be there. It'll be good to see you there, Joking Luna. Glad to hear that. Bye, Desiree. But we will be streaming from BronyCon, which will be a lot of fun. And although there are not official Continentals this year at Gen Con, Sim said, well, we definitely want to be there as well, and let's run an event. So we are. If you are at Gen Con and you are looking for some good competition, Commentary as Magic is running a core constructed tournament on Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. I will try to get the link to the event where you can sign up on Gen Con's website now, because we are limited in space. But it's going to be run just like Continentals would, as a Tier 3 event.
Oh, I'm going to try anyway.
There we go. Way ahead of you there, bud.
Yep, I had just copied and tabbed back over.
But yeah, it will be a big thing.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll see you all. Well, so are we doing a best 2 of 3 for day 2?
That's the plan, though we still have to figure out the logistics of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is a tier 3 tournament, so that is what's suggested.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to cut to at least the top 8, and depending on participation, 16.
Yep.
Sounds like everyone should show up.
Yeah.
Should
if you're at
definitely
Gen
show up.
Con, and we know a lot of you are, come find us.
We won't have fancy continental promos, but we'll still have good competition.
We'll have some promos.
But not fancy continental promos.
Oh, I don't know. I think we still got some Thunderlanes somewhere.
Are we just going to pretend Thunderlane is a continental promo now?
Either that or
Thunderlane is an ultra rare. You will not convince me otherwise.
Food Fight, one of the two.
Well,
Yeah.
So Thunderlane or his biggest nemesis. Got
Yep.
it.
sounds good.
Seems fine. For now, though, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap up our discussion on the ban list adjustments.
I wanted to.
Oh, go for
I'd say buy some apples, but you can't.
it. Tariffs.
Core. But you can buy some other apples.
Yep.
All tooled up farming, anyone?
They're not strawberries.
All tooled up farming, you know you want to.
I'm going to go with no.
Scare
Anyway.
reference that no one gets. Okay.
Anyway, we'd like to
Give
give
everyone sticks.
Yes, we'd love to give everyone sticks, but we can't. We would, however, love to give a big shout out to all of our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for your regular support. If you aren't currently a patron, but you enjoy what we do, please consider donating, because doing so will give you awesome rewards like the ability to vote on polls to determine what future videos we produce, a chance to share your own deck creations to be reviewed live, and even the ability to challenge members of Sim or other patrons to feature duels. If you have comments or questions that you'd like to send our way, or you just want to know what we're working on for the future, there are many ways you can stay in contact. We have our Patreon, as mentioned previously, but we also have a Facebook page at facebook.com/commentaryismagic. We're on Twitter at CIM_CCG. You can email us at commentaryismagicteam@gmail.com. And patrons at or above the $5 per month level get access to our Slack channel, where you can chat live with us any day, anytime. We don't get nearly enough sleep. Geez, what time did you go to sleep last night?
Never.
You too. Wait, did you actually
It was like
not go to
5
sleep?
a.m. or something?
It was
5:30?
like 4 in the morning for me. Yeah, our sleep schedules are nuts. If you're looking to watch any of our previous videos, and we've had several people asking about this, including tournament recordings, all of our previous videos are on our YouTube channel, which is linked in the sidebar. You can also check highlights of videos on our Twitch channel. When you're over on YouTube, make sure to subscribe so we can get a channel URL that's a little easier to remember. With all that said, thank you to each and every one of our viewers, both here now and watching this recording later. We are, as always, Commentary is Magic. I am, as always, Applejack.
I messed up.
Main sense.
And I'm just happy to be free.
You wanna play the video?